All right, everyone, welcome back to another episode of Line Your Own Pockets. In this episode, we're going to talk a little bit, kind of outside trading, but a nice psychology tip that me and Dave were talking about in the green room beforehand about how, sometimes you need to make trading a little bit more real, and there's some things you can do to kind of take some things that we talk about that's very, digital and numbers on a screen and lines on a chart and kind of bring that into the physical world to maybe help a little bit with your psychology and motivation. So why don't you tell a story, Dave?
Yeah, I coach several traders, and um, one of the things I like to do is traders come to me. Some of them, when they come to me, they're not making money. Some of them are, and we get to higher levels, but a lot of them aren't making money. And very quickly, or shortly after we start working together, they start making money. And I mean, that's the whole point.
Mm,
And I've gotten really good, I think, at picking those people out. So if I can tell you're not going to be the kind of person that is gonna make money, I'm not gonna work with you. So I've gotten a lot better at detecting that. So I think once you have some success, because I remember when I was in this situation several years ago, I was having success. I was doing it on the side, so I didn't really need the money. So I was just sort of watching my bank account go higher and higher, and that's great. Obviously, that's great.
yeah.
But what I realized is, when you're comfortable, when you're doing it on the side especially, it becomes kind of a video game, kind of. Like, when it's not really real to you, you don't have to have the money. It becomes kind of a game, and it's that can you can almost be a little bit removed when you wanna be fully engaged, and I've done this with several of my traders where I say, "Okay, pick something to buy with your trading profits." And to make it real, it's almost like a trophy. And when I tell people this, they're like, "Oh yeah, okay." One guy said, "Yeah, I'll get a Rolex. That'll be perfect." And okay, that's fine. But what I really want to see is something that you're going to use every day that really only you know about. A Rolex is something that it's sort of not really for you. It's for showing other people.
Yeah.
I really like it to be something that you use every day that only you know the trading profits bought you. So, what do you think so far? I'm going to give you a couple examples, but I want to get your thoughts so far.
No, I like the idea of again making it real, and especially for those people who are doing it part time, right? Because generally speaking, if you're in the situation in life where you have both the time and the wherewithal and saved up capital to trade part time, then you're doing okay, right? Your life's kind of fine. And you're right. Sometimes it gets very video game esque. It gets very numbers on a screen. Line goes up. That's fine. But people can get a little bit detached, I think, of the actual monetary value. So it seems like what you're doing is a lot of what would happen when it came to trading. When I was trading in the prop firm, they would talk a lot about, you have to imagine what each dollar means, right? So, if you're going to risk $100 on a trade, you need to know that that means, right? This is what $100 could buy you, and try to kind of quantify those things in order to keep yourself engaged. Because at the end of the day, especially if you're doing this with a lot of people doing things like retirement accounts, I trade a lot in my retirement account. I can't touch that money, right? So even if I do great, it's something that I can't, pull out right now. So it actually makes sense to do something to say, okay, you did well, and then let's make it some sort of a physical reward. I'll be interested, and I'll ask you down the road. Do you punish them if they do something bad? If the trading's not working out, is it like a cattle prod, or take something away from them, or is this just to keep the spirits high?
Well, sort of ironically, when things aren't going well, it's pretty easy to stay motivated, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
especially if you've
good
had
point.
success before and then you have a drawdown, like, it's easy to be motivated in that situation. So,
Mhm.
but this is more for, when things are going well. Like the only way I can describe it, it kind of becomes a video game. And so let me give you a couple examples of what some of my traders came up with to get themselves. So,
Sure.
um, one guy who's been trading a long time, uh, he was a losing trader. We started working together. He's making money almost every month now. In fact, maybe every month. Um, and I could tell he was in the situation where it was becoming sort of a video game. Like he needed to be, it needed to be more real for him. So I said, okay, think of something in this arena or in this area that you want to get. So he decided to get 2, really nice Aeron office chairs for himself, which I think is a perfect thing to do, right?
Mhm.
I've had an Aeron chair for a long time. I mean, they're great. They're not cheap, but man, they're just heads above other office chairs. And just think about how often your butt's in that chair, right? As a trader, you're in there a lot. So I
Well,
think
and
that's a
that's
perfect
actually
thing.
funny enough, that's actually how the conversation started because I told Dave that, when I built this office, I burned the boats, right? I bolted this desk to the wall, and I don't have a chair in here, and then subsequently, I've been complaining about my back, the entire time, so it's just funny, that's how we got started on this. He said, "Oh, you should get a chair, and you should do it for this reason," so I just thought I'd share people how this got started, and also I guess that I'm an old man that if I stand for a couple hours a day, my back starts hurting.
Have you gotten your share yet?
Not yet. I need to either bolt this thing down a little bit, or I gotta find like the world's tallest chair. So it's been a bit of a struggle, but I've been looking.
Yeah, I have a standing desk but it goes up and down. And when I
Mm,
stand, I have this really nice mat. It's a padded mat
mm-hmm.
that I stand on, which is much, much better than the floor. It's got all these like contours. There's a little bit of variety in where you can stand. So
Yeah.
yeah, I highly suggest that. I could not imagine standing all day, Michael. That seems crazy to me.
It sounded, right. It sounded like a tough guy move at the time. It's like I won't even have a chair. Then I'll be forced to stand. And then yeah, now a couple months in, it's it's a lot for sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's worth thinking about. I mean, like I said, just think about how much you're in front
Hmm.
of your computer. That's why I don't cut a lot of corners when I think about my computer, my monitors, my workspace, just because you're here so often.
Yeah.
You really want to be you just spend so many hours in there. So that was I thought was a great a perfect thing to get for this trader got. So he finally got those. He sent me a picture with him sitting in it. So yeah, super awesome. Um, the other one, I really like the one this another guy got. So this is the one who said, "Yeah, I'll get a Rolex." Well, choose something that that you're going to use every day. And I imagine if I had a Rolex, like I wouldn't use it every day, right? I would.
Hmm. Be scared
I'm
to.
not going to go for a run with my Rolex on,
Yeah.
right? I'm not going to go for a bike ride. That would be super weird.
Hmm.
Um, so I suggest he needed some suggestions. So what I suggested him was an Ember mug. You ever heard of these Bluetooth coffee mugs?
I haven't, but I'm Googling. Because, yeah, you mentioned it. Yeah.
It's I think it's the perfect thing because it's not a whole bunch of money. It's like a couple $100 or 150 bucks somewhere in there.
Hmm.
But if you drink coffee, you can be drinking it every day. And just it's like a higher end coffee mug, right? And you can dial it in to the exact temperature that you wanna drink your coffee at, and it keeps it at that temperature for a long period. So you don't have to, really rush to drink your coffee. You can drink it over time. Got a really good feel in your hands, got a good feel when you drink it. Uh, and it charges up. So to keep it that temperature, and it's kinda like I don't use I don't use the app, but there's an app you can put on your phone to dial in the
Of
temperature.
of course. Of course there's an app. There's an app for everything. You can't just have a thing now. It has to have an app with it.
Yeah. So um it sounds like, gosh, that's do you really need a mug like that? I mean, you're just drinking coffee, but it's quite nice. It's really quite nice, and that's the perfect kind of thing. It's something you use every day.
Mm.
Every day you drink your coffee, you're reminded, okay, this is what trading got me. And I think that's a perfect kind of thing.
Well, no, and I like the idea. I like the concept. I think, a lot of it, what it's getting to is that trading is a grind, right? It's a grind of a game, right? The whole marathon, not a sprint, comes through kind of all the time. It is, right, something that you're going to be doing, and we talked about this a little in the last episode too about journaling. A lot of delayed gratification in things as well, right? You're going to be doing the right things, hopefully, when it comes to what you're risking and the process you're building and what you're doing. And then you may not see life changing results right away. That might take a little bit of time, but you're doing something kind of physical to kind of remind yourself the importance of the grind. You're saying this is something that I was able to get because I did this kind of over and over again. The thing that kind of came to my mind while you were talking was a lot of people do, and I did myself too, as a bit of a gym rat, is that you end up buying equipment and accessories and everything to go to the gym as a bit of a motivation of, okay, I've been going, right, things have been going well. Now I can, I see that there's some benefit to doing this, right? The first day you go to the gym, you don't need wrist wraps so you can lift more weights with your back, and you don't need some of these things. But as time goes on and as you start to get a little bit developed, you can start to say, okay, well, right, my grip's giving out, so let me, get this and get this thing to help kind of push you forward. And yeah, it's almost like a congratulations to yourself that you've gotten, right, one level higher, and now you get to have a thing and see a thing, and make sure that that's kind of a little bit nice and a little bit motivating to kind of hopefully push you a little bit further down that road.
Yeah. So it reminds me of, um, so my wife and I coached cross country at the local high school here for 10 years. We had a lot of success. She was the main driver. I was sort of the assistant and we became sort of co-coaches. Um, so I spent a long time working with beginners in this thing that I love doing, running.
Hmm.
And running has given me just so much over the years. So I was really happy to give back. And it was really eye-opening seeing young people do this activity, become runners, become physically fit and accomplish big things. We won several state championships. Uh, we had several individual state champions. So it was really just a fun thing to be involved in. And so obviously with each cross country season, the end goal for us was a team state championship. And you get this big trophy. Everybody knows who wins the state championship.
Hmm.
But throughout the year, there were smaller meets and uh, somewhat smaller invitationals that sort of fly under the radar, but you have to do them to prepare yourself for the state championship. And one of them is at a park called Hagenstone in Greensboro, town close to where we live here. And in fact, this race has been going on forever. In fact, I did this race in high school. It was one of my favorite races. Really nice course. But at the end, they give these uh, trophies to the kids, and they've got a ton of trophies. And for this particular race, the trophies are these little carved owls.
Okay.
So it's these like wooden owls. And they give many of these, like probably 30 per race. So a lot of people are getting these trophies. So, there's this ceremony. They call all the kids up there one at a time as the first 30 finishes in the race and give them each one of these little wooden owls, really cool looking things. So there is this public moment of, hey, Bob got this, did well in the race, he got a
Mhm.
trophy. Um, but I really like that these particular ones that in that they're not those gold trophies that you see, back in, for most events that you give these sort of gaudy looking trophies. It was this really cool wooden owl. So it was a much bigger deal because it wasn't like all these other trophies. And
Yeah.
the other
Yeah.
thing I like about it is yeah, there was some public recognition, but that's not why you're doing it. You're doing this activity because you want to be good at it. You're not doing it because other people are going to notice you're good at it. You have to be doing it from within yourself. You have to be self motivated to do it. Otherwise, you're not going to be as good as you could be.
Mhm. Well, the cool thing, right, is they're more memorable, right? When it's and I think that's kind of what you're going for there, where what you're getting your clients to get is the same as these kind of owls, where they're just different enough that you'll look at it and you'll say, okay, I got that for this specific thing. And yeah, and part of the reason that I think that this kind of thing is so important and finding these kind of motivational tools to keep you going is part of just the probabilistic nature of trading, right? Where you're going to at some point have periods of drawdown and periods where that it gets real easy to get in there and work, but there's moments, especially when you're systematic and when things are kind of simple and automated that it feels like, okay, I figured it out. I can just slack off a little bit and I've got this thing that it's working and it's making money and I can just take off and let a system handle something for me. So to do that thing of and I think over time, I think what motivates a lot of traders is having been there and then slacked off and then having whatever you do stop working and then you end up kind of back at square one. So I think what this is meant to do and the idea behind it is just to keep you going when things are quote unquote easy so that you can continue to push into okay, this is the next thing and the next thing and the times where you feel like you should just be kicking your feet up and taking a break, giving you something to say, well, if I want another mug or another whatever, or just something staring in my face to say, no, you got this by doing the work and get back to work kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's especially true for people, who aren't doing this full time. If you're doing it full time,
Yeah.
not hard to stay motivated. I mean, that's probably pretty clear to the listeners. I've done it both ways, and yeah, it's the part where this was most effective is back when I was doing it on the side.
Mm,
So, and it starts out as a mug, but it can grow into, and it did for me. It grew we redid our house, we moved houses, I put my kids through college.
hmm
So, um, those became, trading is very meaningful and, um, it can provide a lot of things for you.
Yeah, but like you mentioned, you don't start there, right? You start at a mug and you start at a small victory. It's one of those things too. I remember going through a trading slump when I was trading with the prop firm, and just purely discretionary at the time. And kind of the advice that I was given by some of the senior traders there is, right, you got to get back to small victories, right? Get back to little things and just have a victory and be able to hang your hat on that and say, okay, I did the thing, right? I made a dollar, right? I made a trade and that was a good trade and then stop there and then go from there. And it's kind of the same thing I think you're thinking with these where you're starting with small little things to keep you motivated and saying, okay, yes, this is possible. You've done it. You have this physical thing to prove that to yourself. When things are a little hard or like we talked about, when things are a little easy, and then that thing grows kind of over time from there.
Yeah. And, it doesn't need to be a Ferrari, even if you can afford it, right? That's why
Mm,
I use the example of a mug. I mean, so it reminds me one more running analogy here.
sure.
So it reminds me back in high school, there were some There were 2 guys that I ran against, sort of the rival high school. They're a little bit older than me. I was friends with them. I went over to their house, and down in their basement, they had all their running trophies in this display case, like hundreds of these things. And I'm thinking, why in the world would you keep all those trophies there like this? I mean, that can't be for you. It's for other people coming over. It's almost like having a Ferrari. Like the Ferrari, like it's for other people to see, like what you
Mhm.
do. It's for other people. It's not for you. So I thought it dawned on me that it's kind of the same thing, like a big trophy case. Gosh, that's seems kind of silly to me. What do you think?
Yeah, I like the idea of what you're talking about where it's for the person will just see anyone else will see a mug, right? They'll look at it and they'll
Yeah.
see a mug and they're like, okay, the guy's got a mug, good for him. But yeah, for him, it's just a little bit more sentimental. Kind of, I guess going back to the owls, right? If it's just an owl, and that's all it says. Well, right, just an owl doesn't really mean too much. So, but to the person, that could be a much bigger deal.
Yeah, it's not just sentimental, it's like truly meaningful.
Hmm.
And I think that's really I just it just had a big impact on me, and it has and I can tell it has big impact on the traders I've worked with who are in this situation. So
That's
I
good.
thought
So
it'd be
yeah,
helpful for our listeners.
well, yeah, so, right, look around your house. If you're an old man like me and you need a new chair because your back hurts all the time, take a look at it and say, hey, maybe if I've got some trading profits this month or this week or something, I'll pull them out and do that. And the last example I'll give is I read a book. I forget what it was called. It's by a guy Tony Oz or something, and basically he was going in. He was like, "I'm gonna start trading, and these are the rules that I'm gonna trade with." And it was a book written in like the early '90s. Well, it would have been the 2000s because the moment he started was the tech bubble collapse. And he's like, "Well, I made these rules, and I'm only allowed to buy stocks and all this stuff." And he published every trade in this book. But what he would do at the end of every week, he would get the trading account to mail him a physical check for what he was making. And it was kind of the same every week, regardless of whether he made a lot or didn't. But he would just get a physical check in the mail. And it was the same kind of thing. He's like, yeah, I could get this even back then, right? I could get this wired to me or something like that. But I want to get the check and then I want to walk down to the bank and I want to deposit the check as like a physical, right? This thing has been done. And yeah, for someone, for us, especially who we're doing everything we do is just hitting buttons at the end of the day, bringing it to the physical world is definitely something that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I like that. It reminds me of the episode we did on what not to automate, which
Yeah,
it's sort of like that. You could have it automatically go to your bank account, but he liked getting the check and walking down to the bank and depositing. I think that's really cool.
I'll see if I can remember the book and link it in the description or the show notes because it was a really really good book. I don't even know if it's sold anymore, but yeah, it was just really it was just this guy's basically trading journal. Every day, these are the trades I made. These are why I made them. That kind of thing. Pure discretionary trading at that time, but yeah, something really really interesting. So again, I think as always, we've left the people with something to think about, right? Is there something in your life that you can do to kind of tie what you're doing into the more physical world? Then certainly go ahead and take a look to do that.
Yeah, and if anybody out there has done this or, got something for this exact purpose, send me an email. I'd like to hear what you got and how meaningful it was for you. So send me an email. I'd like to hear it.
Well, yeah, that'll be cool to share them if when you get them, Dave. But yeah, I think that was another good one. And as always, I'm Michael Noss.
And I'm Dave May. We'll talk to you next week on Line Your Own Pockets.